Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and today I'm going to do another fillet video. I did one a few years back and a few people didn't like it because I cleaned the fish while they were alive, but since then I've learned and I know better. And I found a great thing that I've been doing here lately before I clean my fish, and that's icing them overnight. And it makes all the difference in the world. And here we are, I've got a whole thing full of crappie. I'm going to show you a little video on the difference there is in how much easier they are to clean if they've been iced overnight, plus the advantages of icing them overnight. The main advantage is when you ice the fish overnight and try to get them on the ice when they're alive, fish acts just like a human would. All the blood and everything runs to the organs in order to keep them alive. So when that does that, it draws most of the blood out of the meat and into the organs. This meat is just white, clean, clear, and it looks amazing. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll see how everything works out here. Cut-proof glove, electric fillet knife, bucket for my scraps, which I've got some scraps in there from where I went yesterday, so just never mind that. Alright, dig in here, get some of this ice out. We're going to pull out a slab crappie here. Overnight the fish will shrink up. This right here was a giant crappie, but you can still see compared to a fillet knife just how big this guy was. They'll be stiff, of course, because they've been in the ice. Pull them. What I like to do, of course, I'll grip them in the mouth or hold them in the eye right here. Get under this fin, and then there's a little bone right here you want to get under. And I will cut all the way up through here. Because if you cut straight down, you're missing this whole little nugget of meat. I always make sure I cut at an angle back towards the fish. Then dig in and stay right along the backbone. Just work your way down and try to let the knife do all the work. As soon as you get that done, make sure you're detached here. Just flip it over. Put the blade down, and you can pull the fish right by it. There's a quick fillet. Now, cutting the rib cage out. A lot of people, I used to cut at an angle back and try to trim the back behind the rib cage, but there's actually a little line of bones. What you want to do is straight down here, and then right here at the rib cage, cut back right here. There's a small little section of that bone I was talking about. Now, there is a fish fillet. If you look on the back, you're going to have a little strip of tissue or meat, muscles. I always pull off right here, because if not, when you go to rinse your fish, you're going to have to pull it off anyway. That small piece of it. Put it in the bucket. Put my scraps in my scrap bucket. That's a big male too. It had no eggs in it, and they're spawning right now. So flip this back over. Cut back towards the head. You can see where I cut. I got all this extra meat right here. Now, press it against the backbone and let the blade do the work. Flip it over, and I always flip this piece of skin under. Flat surface. Work my way. Ease, pull the fish back towards you. Then cut. Down and cut under. And then here's this little piece of meat I was talking about right here. There it is. I always pull that off because it's not going to cook. That's how you fillet a crappie. Alright, we're done with the fish. We're back in here. And little thing I do before I put the fish in the bag and freeze them up, of course, first thing I do is get my water going, get them cold. Take each of these fillets, and I'm going to rub them between both my hands like this right here. And rub them until they don't feel slimy anymore. Feel over for bones. And once they don't feel slimy, after we clean it up, look how white and clean that fillet is. That's the benefit of icing overnight. I'm going to lay this thing in the pan, and we want to continue on. As you can see, look at this. See how clear and white that is? I got a little bone here. That's from cutting under the rib cage too short. You can see it's a little red piece. Pull that strip off. There goes the bone. Rub it. Clean. It's kind of pinkish looking, but wait. Excuse me. Now if you look, that is a good overnight iced fish fillet. There's a chunk, a crappie nugget as I call it. In other words, it's where I screwed up when I was filleting it. Beautiful. And don't use warm water, whatever you do. Use cold water, as cold as you can stand it on your hands. Use warm water, it'll halfway cook them and then you'll fall apart when you go to fry them. And don't just let it stick to your hand either and vacuum, kind of like stick and vacuum to your hand, because you're not doing anything but rubbing on one side. Kind of flip it. You can even ball it up and roll it around. Rub it. Get all that slimy feeling off of it. There you go. Alright, I like to do 8 fillets per pack. I'm going to stop for a minute here and just going to do that. Of course, I'll date them. You know, what date I got them. I got like the dual Ziploc bags. I'm going to take all 8 fillets, put them in, shake them down, because that's the serving size for me, is about 8. Now, a lot of people just chuck them in there and freeze them like this. You do that, you're going to get razor burn, hell, freezer burnt fish. What I like to do, fill it up with water. You fill over the top of them just a little bit, and what I do is I'll lay it flat in my sink and I'll push down until that water comes out. Zip it up just a little bit and leave a little bit sticking out and squeeze it. And what that does is pretty much like vacuum packs that fish in ice or in water. So when they freeze, they'll be frozen water. And that is how I do my crappie and do any fish I catch. And you can see how clean and white that is. And it's all covered in water and it's kind of vacuum packed. Put that in the freezer. Be ready to eat whenever I want them. Y'all have a good one.